start week 4 of our Stitch and Stash Tote Sew Along. We are starting on the bottom of on page 7 of our pattern, the Stitch and Stash Tote by Knot and Thread Designs. I've made a handful of her bags. They are all great. They're really, really fun. And the one I'm making right now, sewing along with you guys, is so fun. My practice one was the Fire Glow canvas print, which is hanging right here. It's been storing all of my stuff in between our, might need that later too. It's been storing all my stuff for in between our little cozy catch-ups. That's just what we're gonna keep calling them today. But we'll hopefully have a finished bag at the end of today to put along with that one. So starting on the bottom of page 7, we're starting with our water bottle mesh pocket binding. So we are using our fold over elastic. So the first thing you do is you subcut your elastic down to the 9 inches like you're supposed to for your pocket. So I have my 2 9-inch pieces ready to go. Oops. And we turn on our sewing machine. Details. And I didn't swap it back over from a thread I used for a customer, so we're going to do that really quick. Maybe. There we go. The machine I love to sew on, the machine I have at home, and I'm lucky enough to have a double of here, is the Janome HD9. It has been recently discontinued, but is a fantastic heavy-duty machine. Discontinued and then replaced with a slightly, not slightly, with an updated version on a handful of its features. So it's the, I don't remember what it's called because I'm on the spot, but very, very good bag making machine if you were in the market to get a new machine. Hair down Hannah is not a look we usually see. No, it's not. I got a new fun hair product last week when I got my hair cut. It's a whole new line of stuff that they're carrying, and it's intended for people with curly hair, and I've heard that spiel before. And I usually end up trying it. It doesn't always work, or sometimes it works and it's really inconsistent, and that drives me nuts. So this one I have used twice now with the exact same good curly hair results, and I'm really happy with it. So I'm liking it. Okay. Got my machine re-threaded here. I've been using a neutral gray thread, and I use a polyester thread when sewing bags, not cotton. Polyester is a little more durable for those bags that take up the wear and tear of everyday life. You know, I use a lot of my tote bags for diaper bags, day bags, if my son Luke is going to play at someone's house for the day, if he's going with my parents, if we're going in the car, we bring snacks, we bring whatever. So you want to make sure you're getting a good durable bag, and polyester thread is how we accomplish that. I use our long arm thread here, honestly, multi-purpose. It's polyester, it's readily available in many, many colors, and works well for what I want it to do. So doing our water bottle mesh pocket binding. So it wants the stretchy side to side. We're sewing our bindings along the top and the bottom of the stretchier side, so it kind of pulls this way, but not so much this way. So that's the side we want going up and down. We want the stretch to go along with our binding. So sewing with mesh can be kind of tricky, and then when you add elastic to it, it's just another layer of things to pay attention to. It's not that it's hard, it's not that it's impossible, it's just one more thing. So we are going to, and mine, with it being black on black, it's a little bit harder to see. I am going to hold my elastic. Ooh, that actually shows up really nice. And then I had to wear a black t-shirt today on top of all of it. So we put our mesh about halfway through in our elastic, and then we fold it over. And I'm not looking to get the whole thing started. Now, I did bring my, I brought it in, there it is. I brought my thing of Wonder Clips today because it's binding day, and if Kelly Dale is here, I'm not about to let Kelly make fun of me. So I've got my Wonder Clips, we'll just use them. Typically, I don't pin or clip a lot. There are instances where I do it every time, and there's instances where I'll never touch a pin or a clip. This is kind of a maybe. It's more for you guys to see what we're doing versus me, but we'll just get it started. It's gonna look like that. We fold it perfectly in half along out. Kelly's here. I'm so glad. Okay, gonna start it under my machine. Putting my presser foot down. Mine's manual. It does not go when I push my foot pedal. Some machines do that. Mine does not. It is all manual, and I like it that way. We're gonna use a slightly shorter stitch length because we're stitching on mesh, and it's quite holey, so we want to give it as many chances to catch the mesh fabric as we can. So undo my clips as we go, back stitching a little bit, and this is where I like to make sure that when my machine stops, my needle stays down. I don't want it up, because as I'm readjusting my elastic as I go, I don't want it to move. So my needle staying down keeps it where it needs to go. Folding over my elastic as we go, letting my machine pull the mesh through. I'm not forcing anything. I'm not pushing it. I'm just guiding it through. Folding over our elastic as we go, just a couple inches at a time. Down to my last little bit here. My elastic and my mesh line up perfectly, so I did a good job cutting my pieces. Letting it go all the way to the end, back stitching 2 or 3, and then cutting, and then it looks like this. You can kind of see my top stitching there. It's a little bit shorter than my typical top stitching, and I like it. It looks good. The back looks equally as good, except for this little bit here, but I can trim that up. So with elastic, you're just being careful when you fold it around like that, that you're stitching on both sides. You don't want to miss part of it, otherwise your elastic's going to end up flapping in the wind. So if you did miss it, pick it out, start again. And I would pick out the whole thing if it was me, because unless you're using a really blendy thread, which then it's just fine. But my thread stands out on the black because it's a light gray, and I would want a smooth and cohesive looking, these are terrible snips, smooth and cohesive looking stitch. I wouldn't want it to be messy. This messy start is just because I did not hold on to my tails when I started sewing. Janomi's infamous for that. It's okay. We're just going to make sure that that is our underside for the other half of the elastic that we're going to sew on. So I trimmed what I was comfortable with, but this honestly is going to end up in my seam allowance, and it isn't going to bother me. So we have some stretch. It's kind of nice. So we're going to do the other side, keeping our pretty side up, and our side with the tiny little loops there. If they bother you, you just put that on the back. You're never going to see it again. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So elastic on the other half, folding it in half and around. Back stitching just a couple stitches so that it doesn't unravel on us. Ooh, lined up perfect again. Love it when a plan comes together. Stitched all the way to the end, back stitched about 3 stitches, Sharpie the threads. That's genius, Heather. It's so simple and so smart. So, all right, there's the front, looking good. Just need to trim this little tail. That's easy enough. And really, you don't have to. There we go. But I like to give my bags, I call them haircuts. Give your bag a haircut along the way. So nice and stretchy. The back side, the loop doesn't look as bad on that side, but we're not gonna see it. That's gonna get sewn in no matter what. So there's our pocket. Now, if you have extra elastic, and extra mesh. Now, I don't think anybody has extra mesh, but you may have some extra elastic. You could make another pocket for the other side. You would just do this little bit twice. That is one of the only things that I would change on this pattern. And that's not even like a real change. It's just I would add something else. So yeah. Okay. We're going to move on. We made our pocket, our mesh pocket. It says set it aside. I'm going to hang mine up here on the little pegboard. So I'll lose it still, but it's up there. It's set aside. Moving on to the side gusset strips. It says fold one of my side gusset bindings in half. Blah, blah, blah. It measures this. Pin in place on one short end of the lining side of the side gusset strip. Okay, so we get our bindings. I think it's these two. Put these aside. Okay. So I've already prepped these. I did this last week. So just pressed in half like normal binding. Except it's a little bit thinner. And we're gonna take our, I can't forget to use my label. It says I used the good fabric. This is where we need to be careful that we are not sewing the wrong gusset strip. The bottom piece is smaller than the rest of them. So laying them out, I have, the bottom piece is larger. Okay. See, that's why we check. All right, place on the short end of the lining side of the side gusset strip. This is at the top. It doesn't say that, but it is at the top. It's going to be at the top side of our bag. So we are binding the side bit here. Okay. And we want to make sure if your fabric is directional, half our kits are, half our kits aren't. So just be mindful. If you haven't messed up your binding now, don't start now. So binding the top half on the lining side, raw edges together. Perfect 1/4 inch gets you the perfect fold over and stitched down binding on the other side. Back stitching at the beginning and at the end. I'm going to go ahead and grab my other piece and we're just going to get them both done at once. We're going to chain piece them, which means I'm not cutting my threads in between. I'm just going to lift up my presser foot and start the next one. And when you do a bunch of them, or a bunch of anything like that, usually you're doing it like square triangles or something, it makes a chain. So your pieces are connected, which no big deal, you just trim them. So our bindings are sewn onto the wrong side. We are going to flip them back over. I wanted to do my label on the other side, but we'll do it on the outside. That's okay. Okay, so this is where it says that you're going to you're going to add in your label if you wish. This is also, our kits did not include the hardware to make the little, you just need a swivel hook and a D-ring basically. So if you have those in your stash, you just need one of each, but just to help keep the cost of the kit down, we did not include that. That's where you're going to stitch this in as well. So you would have done it here. You would add that little tabby bit that's going to hold your swivel hook. Instead of me over explaining with words, I'm going to show you the little graphic in there. So you're just going to tuck that in. But I'm going to sew in my label. And I'm going to sew it on, just looking at my two panels. This one has more going on at the top than this one does, so I'm going to put the label on this side. So folding it around just like we would a normal binding, putting my label dead center. I'm going to get my binding started first though. Needle down. I'm going to get my stitch length back up to about 3.2. There we go. Got it started. forgot to backstitch at the beginning, but that's okay. We'll just keep going. Oops. Folding, doing my second one, just gonna chain piece them together. There we go, cutting those on my side cutter of my machine, grabbing my scissors. My binding was a tad bit longer, so I'm just going to cut it flush with my panel. I was careful not to backstitch in that over long piece. I sewed a little bit more and then backstitched. Okay. Birdie, I'm glad you're joining late. I'm glad you're joining at all. This is exciting. Okay, so I've never actually used a sew-in label before, so that was new for me. That was exciting. We can give this a haircut when we're all done, but these are driving me nuts now. All right, so my panels look like this. I use the good fabric. Just makes me giggle, makes me smile. So those are our side gusset strips. Is that what they're called? Yes. Okay. All right. Now we are going to put the mesh pocket on. So just to make sure I do it right. Yep. Okay. Just making sure. I'm going to do it on my side I use the tab on. No big deal. Wish you had started with this with me 4 weeks ago. Good news, Jerry. It's a pretty darn fast pattern, so you could catch up lickety-split. I'm going to grab this ruler that's sitting here, which is overkill for what I need, but that's okay. We're measuring a little bit down, and I'm going to mark in pink. Pink's probably a bold choice here. That's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. So marked a little bit down. You can kind of see my pink shadow of a line. That is going to be the top of my mesh pocket that I already forgot where I put it. Making sure that we're grabbing the pretty side, which is this side. And this is where your wonder clips are going to come in handy. You don't want to stretch your mesh fabric. Just behaves better if we don't do anything silly to it. So we're just going to clip it in place. Not a lot of clips, just a couple, just to keep it where it needs to be. Okay. And on the other side, then we bring up the slack and we bring the raw edges to the other side. And I'm going to clip those in place and show you what I'm looking at here. And then I'll stitch it down. So it looks like this. There's no pleating necessary. There's no working it in. It's just line it up, stitch it, take up the excess, line it up and stitch it. Now, when I was making this, I had some doubts because when you do an Annie one, you usually have to stretch the elastic and do this and this, and that's great, and it works out just fine. This one, you didn't do that, and I was like, okay, but is it gonna work? Yes, it totally works. I carry a big water bottle. This is 32 ounces, and this fits great. It's perfect. So it's great for those larger water bottles. If you were to make it and you're like, that's too big for mine, you could mess with it on your next bag and make it a little bit shorter so that there's not as much room, but only do that if you're feeling super confident. So we're gonna stitch this down. It says to do it, is it an 1/8 of an inch in? Yeah, so we're just basting. So we're taking a shallow 1/8 of an inch. It's gonna get caught when we do our gusset binding both times. So an 1/8 of an inch in, back stitching. I back stitched twice over the elastic part. Taking out our clips as we go. And cutting. So that's stitched on, and then I'm going to flip it around. Since it's clipped in place, I'm not worried about starting from the other side. Not worried about that doing anything to it. There we go. So there is my water bottle pocket. Oh, armpits through there. Okay. There's that. We skipped the sunglasses deal. Okay. So when you're doing your, when we're making our gusset and you put the hardware on, your gusset strip is going to end up looking like this. So your hardware is on the opposite end of your pocket. I didn't do the hardware. I asked Jenny if she wanted me to for hers and she said no, so we're skipping it. But okay, we are going to finish the gusset. We're going to gather one of the side gusset strips, which is this one that we have our pocket on. There's my other one, and here's my bottom strip. This one is directional. Since it's on the bottom of the bag, it doesn't really bother me that which side goes where. It doesn't, it's gonna line up with one side of the bag or the other, and it doesn't bother me which side it ends up on. So main sides together, and we're gonna sew the short sides with a, this is a 1/4 inch seam. Yep. Okay, so short sides together, we're gonna sew 1/4 inch seam. We're gonna back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Okay. I didn't get the best bite. I'm gonna go back and do it again from this side, and I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch down from this side that slipped to be a little bit lower. I always want to make sure you're that. So now it's just double strong. So we got a double stitch line on accident, but that's okay. So when you open it up, they're joined together. We are going to do the other one now, making sure that our lining is on the other side. So, or our, words are hard. Our binding is on the top. So when we fold it open, we want that binding to be at the top for both of them. Don't sew your binding into this seam, basically is what I'm trying to say in way more words. Sewing your short sides, right sides together. Try to get a good bite out of both pieces this time. There we go. That's better. Okay, 1/4 inch, looking better. When we open it up, our gusset is linings on one side, exterior on another. That's how you know you did it right. If you've got them flippity flopped, rip that out and start again. And then we're gonna bind our gusset strips, which might scare some people, but it's not scary at all. So I've got two of my not two of my, just two of my binding strips here. I'm gonna want my, I don't know what it says in the pattern, probably says what I'm gonna say. I want my binding, let me see what I did here. Yes. I want to sew my binding on my side strip, and I want to flip it down to the bottom. That way the bulk goes towards the bottom of the bag. So grabbing my gusset, my lining, or my binding, excuse me, for my gussets down here, I'm going to bind on the other side with this piece facing up. 1/4 inch here. Back stitching at the beginning. And at the end. And actually you'd want to take a little bit more of a 1/4 inch because of what I just did, and I'll show you. So I did the same seam allowance, but it wasn't quite right, and I can see my other line stitch sticking out. I don't want that. So I'm going to take a slightly bigger, all the way down. We're going to call it a fat 1/4 inch seam. It's nowhere near the correct term, but that's okay. My good scissors. I'm going to trim my binding because it's a little bit long. I didn't do any of my back stitching in that spot, so it's okay. And then what we're going to do is open up our gusset. So it's like this. My binding very clearly stays folded off to one side. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. I'm gonna just push this straight over. I'm not gonna fold it. I'm just pushing it over, and it lays decently flat. And then what I'm gonna do, once this is like this, let's clip it. So we pseudo sew it. So once this is folded, and this is where you can take your iron and you can push that binding and get all the extra out of it, because you can kind of see mine's loose, but that's okay because it's not stitched. We're going to stitch an 1/8 of an inch in, and then we're going to do an 1/8 of an inch down from that to give it some extra strength. So taking off my 1 Wonder clip, back stitching just a couple stitches at the beginning, moving my Wonder clip at the end, took out that gap as I stitched, so now it looks like this. You can kind of see my top stitch shadow in there. I'm going to top stitch again an 1/8 of an inch farther down to give it an extra little bit of pizzazz. That's also a piece of the bag that's going to take a lot of the general, it's a tough part of the bag. You want it to take, you just want it to be able to hold up. So there's what that looks like when we do our second. There we go. There. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So starting with our side gusset towards us, binding strip raw, sides together, sewing that with a 1/4 inch. No, our fat 1/4 inch. And we do that so that we catch that 1/4 inch basting that we did on the last one, remember? Okay, and we can check that we didn't leave any strings hanging out. We can't see that other basting line. Then we're going to open this up, push our binding straight in towards the bottom piece of the gusset, top stitch an 1/8 of an inch down along the fold of our binding. Folding over as we go, because we did not get it with the iron. Cutting, coming back to top stitch an 1/8 of an inch down from that one we just did. Cutting again, and there's our other side. So our gusset now looks like this. It has the 2 binding pieces in the middle, holding those in, looking good. Okay, so this piece is now called the gusset. This is it. This is the whole thing. So that's the bottom of page 8. Flipping to page 9, now we are going to attach the gusset linings. So, Kelly, you still here? We have our gusset linings. I starched these pretty good, so they're nice and crispy and they're going to behave for me. So these are 2 with the fabric strips, just from my accent fabric that we cut. We're going to go on the lining side of the bag. Excuse me, the lining side of the gusset. We're just double checking before we sew that this is long enough. If you have an accent fabric that is short, or you're using scraps or whatever, because the one with the fabric will cover your gusset without having to piece it, you just want to make sure it's long enough. Just a quick check so that you don't get mad at yourself later. So, okay. A little bit of overhang. Remember, a 1/4 inch seam here. Sewing on the lining side, raw edges together, all the way down. Being careful on those lining spots. If your machine is one that does not handle a lot of bulk well, slow down. Back stitching at the very end there as well. There we go. Okay, so it looks like this. My binding strip is along one side. We're gonna repeat that and do it on the other side. Just a quick check, just a good habit. Okay. Back stitching at the beginning. 1/4 inch stitch all the way down. Now you can wonder, clip your binding into place if you so choose here. I don't. I know you're all shocked. Okay, I'm to my elastic, so we just want to make sure that we're scooching our elastic back over so that we don't put extra pleats in that don't belong there. Oops. Okay, so we've got our gusset double bound. Clips slow me down, man. I don't know what to tell you. And now we get to assemble the tote. So we've got our gusset binding ready. This is like the coolest thing that Knot and Thread does with her patterns. She gets your binding sewn on at a way easier step than an already assembled bag that isn't bound, if that makes sense. She lets you do half of, like, she lets you sew the binding on without having to wrangle the whole bag to do it. And then all you have to do when you're wrangling the whole bag is stitch it down, which is so nice. It's so nice. I would give her a crisp high five if she were here, but she's not. I'd probably say something silly if she was here in real life. So, okay. Assembling the tote. So with the main fabric sides together, you pin or clip the gusset and the bag front pieces together, matching the centers and the top bound edges. The most important part in my world is matching the bindings at the top, because this is some high contrast stuff. We've got green and black. You are totally gonna see it if I sew it together and they're off. You're just gonna see it. On the Fire Glow tote, it's kind of the same thing, less contrast, but still a decent amount of contrast. If you don't line this up, if this bag, like this isn't perfect, this kind of drives me crazy. But this one's good. If you don't line these up, this is gonna be the most obvious part of all of it. So I start there and then I clip down to center, because my gusset doesn't have, like, it's not like a quilt block where you have points to line up. Wherever it meets in the middle and on the corners is where it meets in the middle of the corners in my world, as long as my ends look good. The ends are the most important part to me. So you can do what you wish. You can follow exactly what she says, because that probably is what works best for her, and that's great. But I have found that it doesn't work best for me, probably because I do enough 1-degree alterations along the trip that it just that's probably why, but that's okay. Just gonna hang up my scissors up there, clean up my little work area here so that I don't knock a bunch of stuff on the floor while I'm stitching. I'm good at that at home. I don't have a very big sewing table at home, which is fine, but it I tend to knock stuff down, and then you hear Jacob, which is my husband, he yells from the other room, "Are you okay?" And I say, "Yeah, I'm just binding, and I'm not about to move a bunch of stuff out of my way. If it falls, it falls. I'll fix it later." So, that being said, that was a long tangent for nothing relevant. We are going to take our gusset, right sides together with one of our main panels. And this is where, I believe on our last sew along, I talked about when you're marking the center, and whatever else we did. I will tack things in place instead of clipping it. I love Wonder Clips, but they don't have enough strength to absolutely keep it where it needs to be. And pins do, but I tend to poke my finger, especially on bags. So what I like to do is tack it in place. So I'm gonna line these up. I'm gonna fold my binding down just so I can see it. But I'm gonna tack those in place to be even right there. And we're kind of trialing by error, because I did not do this on my other bag, but this is what I like to do. And I'm not talking a big tack, just enough to keep it right where it needs to stay. And while we're here, we could find the center. I don't measure. I like to do this method where you fold it in half. fold it in half, and I take those scissors I just hung up that I need again, and you make the tiniest of tiny little notches within the seam that you just sewed your binding on. That is the center, right there. Tiny, tiny, tiny little notches. So, you see how that's not straight anymore? And that one's kind of ragged, but it's still in my seam. It's gonna sew in, it's gonna be covered, it's gonna be fine. That is center. And I've already tacked that on, but that's okay. We can find the center of our bag panel front just the same way. So we fold it in half. These tend to drive me crazy. I like to cut them off as I go. Okay, nice clean. So we're just going to make the tiniest little notch, which turns into a bigger notch when you unfold it, but there's center. So those 3 spots are all I'm gonna care about right now while I'm sewing stuff together. The notch idea is awesome. Thank you. I'm a fan. Okay, so I've got my top center good to go. I'm gonna line up my notch in my gusset with my notch I just made in my front panel, and I'm gonna clip it on either side. So I am team less clips is more. You can clip or pin as much as you want. And I like the notch idea because as you're sewing, as you're quilting, as you're cutting, things may change. The size may not be exactly 16 inches. It might end up 15 and 7/8 or 15 and 3/4. And if you measure, you know, so many inches in, you're gonna be off. And then you're gonna have a pleat over here when you maybe didn't need to have a pleat over there if you just let it ease its way in. I don't know. It's very fly by the seat of your pants style, but it's my style and I'm sticking with it. So same thing. I'm just gonna tack up here. I clipped the bottom together. I'll show you what this looks like in just a second. I'm gonna just tack it up here. And by tack, I mean like I'm doing like 6 stitches. Maybe less, but just enough to hold it together. So I've got my gusset. I've got my gusset tacked up here. And then down here, it folds really nicely. I did not pin or clip my corners. I like to ease those in as I go. What you could do if you really didn't want it to move, since I clipped on either side and my notches are lined up on the bottom, you could tack a couple inches in if you wanted, or you can just let it fly and just make sure that your ends stay lined up. I'm gonna tack mine because that's what I like to do. So I can take out those clips now because everything is tacked and ready to go. We're just gonna ease it in as we go. So now we're gonna sew our front panel to our gusset, and we're gonna stitch along the line that we did for our binding. Oops, right there. Stitch along that line. So here we go. Probably not a lot of talking here because I'm gonna concentrate on not sewing through my finger and doing a good job. Going as far as we can. Now I'm to the curve. Somebody said this scares them. So I wish you could see this from my point of view. I'm gonna cut it, show you what I'm gonna do. So as I get to the corner down here, I sewed to right here, and then I ended up trimming it so I can show you what I'm doing. So since I tacked that middle piece, it lays down and the corner just kind of folds in, and it folds where it needs to go. So then what I like to do, now my corner's in place, I push down, and I have to do this on the table and then I can show you what I did. You push down and you kind of make it into a pancake. And then do you see how much of that laid down where it's gonna need to go? And then you just make this minor little adjustment where you pull those pieces together and the corner just falls into place, especially if you trimmed using your template. I didn't, but I've done it enough, it's okay. Or I'm gonna say it's okay. It will just fall into place. And if it doesn't, I don't mind a little pleat in the rounded corner. I think it gives it some character. It has never bothered me when I have finished a bag and I have a little wrinkle. I like them. So that's just me. You don't have to like them. So I'm gonna back up about an inch above where I cut my thread to show you what I was doing here. Laying the bottom piece down, smushing my corner, just kind of crunching it up. And then we're gonna let it pull me around the corner. I have the tiniest wrinkle or two. I don't mind, I think it looks good. I'm working in. I got to that spot, I tacked the center, so I'm gonna show you what I'm doing. Okay. So we sewed down and around. I have a tiny pleat. This is gonna come out. You're almost never gonna see that. And then I sewed to the middle. Now I need to do the other side. So we're gonna take off around the corner, do our other side. Same idea, all the way around the other and back up to the top. Back stitching a little bit to start. I'm so sorry, YouTube. Oh, geez. I wasn't even paying attention. Okay, I'm gonna scooch my machine so that I don't hit anybody again. And rotate the whole thing while I'm at it. We're still figuring it out. Oh no. Did I just lose everybody? There it is. Everybody that was just watching on the app, the website, wherever else, not on YouTube. Did everybody just disappear? Did I just disappear from you? Everybody okay? Everybody coming back? Did anybody leave? I don't know. We'll see. All right. I'm about to my corner. I'm going to just lay that down kind of in a triangle that way. All right. I let it pull me around the corner. I lost my pattern. Everything is laying down perfectly. Got to the top, back stitched to, I froze. That's super weird. It said that I had my lost connection and it had happened 10 seconds previously before I noticed it. So I'm glad you're all still here. Okay, so there is my sewn gusset. The other side actually went really, really smooth. And I didn't end up having a wrinkle in the corner. Which doesn't bother me. So then we're gonna flip around, make sure we got a good bite out of the other side. And a good way to just test that is you open the gusset just towards yourself and you run your hand along that seam and you're trying to push your finger through. And you just make sure that you don't poke through anywhere. You're good to go. Okay, so there's half my bag. There's what my gusset looks like. There's what the front looks like. So we're going to turn this so that my main side is out. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to bind it first. So I only have to wrangle half of it. So turning it back, wrong side out, or lining side out, not wrong side, lining side. We are going to do our binding. Since we're here, so that we don't have to wrestle both panels at once, we're just going to do this. This is where I got in trouble in my first bag when I had forgotten to sew the exterior slip pocket on. Don't forget to do that. This is where you'll want to catch that. So our binding. Kelly, are you ready? My computer's about to die. Cheese and rice. Where's my charger? There we go. Okay. All right. We're going to flip our binding around just like you do on quilt binding. This one, you can hit it with your iron. It's going to naturally come around. If you have some extra here, you're going to want to trim it down to be nice and short. You're going to fold this over and fold this over. And it just works like magic to give you a clean edge there. So putting that perfectly folded edge underneath my needle, needle down, oops, foot down, back stitching a little bit. Now, I didn't do any wonder clips here. Your binding will slip around on you if you don't. Just something to be aware of, something to be ready for. I tend to use my hands as the wonder clips as I go, just a few inches of stitching at a time. To my corner, it just gently folds around. This is where the bias binding is really going to come in handy. They handle curves a lot better than straight binding does. I did cut mine from straight strips, but I think it works out just fine. Tucking in those little strings as you go. You can cut those off if you want, if they're really driving you crazy. Otherwise, just tuck them into your binding. They shouldn't pop out once you have it stitched down. I haven't noticed that anyway on anything I've made in the past. So, coming up on my second corner. Pulling my binding around. It's wrinkling a little bit, but that's, like I said, because I use these straight cut strips instead of bias strips. So if you're doing that too, just be aware that's going to happen to you too. I don't have a stiletto in here, so I'm using my pencil to fold that little tiny bit in to lay down. Rounding my corner. And we're home free. Coming up on my other end, you're going to want to fold any of that little extra tab down. I didn't have much, so we're doing the best we can with what we got. This may take some finagling. This part never goes well for me. She makes it look so easy on her videos. All right, holding that in place, stitching up to the end. Ooh, it laid nice and flat. Love that. Okay, so there we go. There's our bound edge of our bag. Nice and finished. So let's do the other side, shall we? So flipping it so that the main part is out, and you want to test your binding here too. Put your binding or your seam to the test. You're gonna push and make sure that it's not gonna, you don't have a hole. You want to fix it now before it's all assembled and you think you're done and then you find the hole you've got to fix. That's the worst. Instead of using a stiletto, I used hemostat pliers. They worked for me instead. Oh, you typed it twice. That's a great idea, because then you could grab it a little bit and push it under too. So, like we said, there's 100 right ways to do this. So we're gonna repeat what we just did on the other side with maybe a little less explaining. I put my power cord through my handle. Give me just a second here. There we go. Okay. Main side up. This side, it happens to be my back panel with the slip pocket. And I'm going to mark center on this with my little notch method. I think I learned this from Noodlehead, or maybe somebody that was doing a Noodlehead tutorial. It's genius. All right. Tiny notch. Marking the center of our panel. So main sides together. Yes, just becomes a little bit more to wrestle now. I'm gonna tack my edges, or my ends, sorry, not my edges, my ends, tack my ends so that they don't move. I'd rather have a wrinkle or a malalignment anywhere else than right there. There we go, and then we're going to tack center. We'll do a couple inches down there at the bottom to hold the bottom center with the gusset center. Whoa. There we go. Okay, we've got it tacked in place. Now we're just gonna sew along. I like to do this with my binding side up, then I know I'm stitching along that binding seam, and that I'm not taking too much away of that to be able to fold it around and use that in my next step. So gusset side up, starting from the top, stitching down the side. You can clip in place here if you wish. I don't wish, so I'm not doing it. Okay, came down to my corner, came up on my corner kind of fast. So laying down the bottom piece, kind of smushing my corner into a triangle, which makes sense when you're doing it. Pulling that down. Working my way around the corner, easing in. The side doesn't fit quite as well as my other side did, which is gonna be a reason I'm glad that I did my tacking of my top and my center. I want the eased in part to be nowhere near the top of the bag. Okay, came up on my corner too fast last time. I think that's probably why I had some trouble. Just laying that down. Yes, looking better. Easing that corner in. Not much to ease. This one lays really nice. Turning my computer as we go here. Did I just lose everybody on video? Technology is killing me. Heather, we can order hemostat pliers if you want, I think. We've done it in the past. Okay, glad I didn't lose anybody. I can usually see what I see on the iPad right in front of me, but that's gone. It's a black screen. All right, home free, straight up the side. There we go. Binding is sewn on. Gonna do our test. Run our hand all the way around that seam we just sewed. Make sure we don't accidentally poke through anywhere. If we do, that's where we fix it. It is not the week for technology, you guys. Someone had a question. Where'd it go? Shoot. Dang it. Whoever's watching me on YouTube right now, can you type your question again? Because I can't get it to pop back up on my screen. I saw, I'm here on YouTube, can you show us? And then it went away. Okay, we're gonna do our binding the same on the other side. I have my little bit to fold down and over, tucking that little end bit in. That just makes sure we don't have a raw edge on the top of our bag. That's not what we want. So getting our binding started. Don't like that. Go. There we go. Okay, that is not a piece you want to rush. You want to make sure that that top edge looks good. So needle down so we can start. Shoot. Is there a way for us to see what I'm sewing? I just see your head in the coat behind you. I would if I could. I don't know how to put the camera behind me so that you can see what I'm sewing. I think that would require some piecing together of some multiple video footage. What I'm doing now is live sewing. So I'm sewing right in front of you. If I were to sew through my finger or cut my bag in half, that would just be live, and that's not something I can edit out later. It is something we've talked about though. It's on our radar to try to figure out, because I love a good video tutorial that looks over my shoulder so that you see what I see. But long story short is we are working on a way to be able to do that. then some of my goofy things I'm saying would probably make a little bit more sense. So I'm at my corner, just folding my binding around. It's laying nice and neat as we go, like it's supposed to. To the other corner. This one's getting a little bit tight, but that's okay. Go, working around. Almost done. This is the last thing we have to do before we can enjoy our cool bag. All right, getting to that same spot where that piece doesn't want to lay flat. I just used the point of my scissors. Not the best tool in the world, but it did the job. All right, and home free up the straight edge of the bag. Running into my computer there. If I knock that over next, I'm sorry in advance. Okay, coming up to the edge, we're folding that extra bit down so that we can fold our binding over and get that nice clean finished edge. Ooh. Playing dangerous games. Okay, there we go. There's our other side. Finished, bound, ready to go. One final test, make sure there's no holes. This is where you could go and trim up any of these loose threads. I'll do that later. Won't make you guys watch me do that. But I'm gonna flip our bag right side out and it's ready to use. Quilted fabric is a little bit stiff. Canvas makes it even worse, especially if you've interfaced it and used foam. All right. The bindings can sometimes take a little bit to kind of work into their homes, but once they're there, they'll stay. So there we go. There's our finished tote bag. Pretty cool, huh? Ooh, that looks good. And our inside, we've got our pockets, our mesh pockets there on the bottom. We could use that big pocket for our big water bottle, and it stays put. It doesn't flop around in our bag. So, love that. Ah, so cute. Yes, it definitely needs a haircut though. There's strings sticking out everywhere. Looks fantastic. So I'm sorry, spoiler alert to anybody who ordered the Halloween kit, which was a bunch of you. Super exciting. But this is what it looks like when you're all done. Even cuter than we imagined, isn't it? So, happy sewing. Let me know what questions you have, if you have any. And then we'll meet back here eventually, won't we? Tomorrow is First Friday. Let's go ahead and sign up on our YouTube, and then we can do some announcements for the store that are not relevant to our YouTube friends. So YouTube friends, thank you for watching us. We will see you later. Bye.